I did my internship at Deutsche Bank, and the procedure for the entire internship was that initially we had to submit our resumes. We had to submit our one-page non-core resume, and it was open for all the departments, and 48 people were shortlisted. After that, we had few rounds of interviews. There were 3 to 5 rounds of interviews. Few people had 3 interviews and few people had 5. And there was no CPI criteria as such, but the ones who were shortlisted were almost all were 8 plus. So the first round was an HR interview. The main questions that they asked was, why would you want to get into DB? Why are you doing finance? And few basic questions about finance. They just asked if I've read Economic Times. Questions like, what's the conversion of rupee to dollar at this point of time? Is it going up? Is it going down? How is the new government influencing the INR conversion at this point of time? Because I had a minor degree in management, I was asked few questions about marketing, the 5 P's of marketing, operations management and project management. The second interview was a coding round because I had a coding profile. The main question that they asked was, which they grilled on for around 15 to 20 minutes, was a question that was based on the chess moves and how you're going to win the final game. What they're looking for is not the right answer, but they're looking for the approach. So often if you get stuck in between, they help you, they tell you what the next approach, what the next step could be, and then that's how you proceed and get to the final answer. There were also a few questions about basic physics, pulleys and ropes, simple basic questions. The third round was another HR interview, in which they specified more about why would you want to do finance, what are the basics of finance that you're already aware of, and how could you be an asset to DB if they take you. The fourth interview was a stress interview. In this interview, I was asked around 7 to 8 questions one by one, and I had to answer each one of them within 10 seconds. And these were slightly mathematical questions. For example, the question was integral of, I had to give the integral of sine square dx. And when he would turn the paper to me, he would count 10 to 1 on my face, and I had to get the answer. The answer for this would be integral of 1 minus cos 2x integral, and this has to be an indefinite integral. If you put the units as 0 to 1 by any chance, you get a 0. So basically you have to make no assumption, and I made an assumption, which is I got a 0 in the first question. The second question was, there was a circle and he made a triangle in between, and he asked what this angle is, without mentioning that this is the diameter. So if you give the answer as 90 degrees, you're again wrong. But he would make the triangle such that it appears as the diameter. So that question. Another question was a similar question. There was a circle, you had an arrow, and there were 2 triangles, and you had to tell what if this angle is 30 degrees, what would this angle be? Because of the earlier question, you already had a mind that you cannot take any assumption. You would not give this answer as 30 degrees, but the answer was actually 30 degrees. So that way, they try to confuse you so that you take a particular line of thought, and then they give a question that's to the other line of thought. So the fifth interview was more about, they wanted to make sure if I would fit in the company. And one question that they generally ask in the last interview is, if we have any questions. And I would suggest that you should generally answer that question. What I asked was, what kind of role am I going to get when I join DB? Other than that, in the last interview, it's basically the head of the entire hiring department who just talks to you once, who wants to make sure that they're hiring the right guy. And yeah, that's about it. So basically, I would suggest that you read about the basics of finance, the basic news that's going on at this point of time. And even if you don't know finance, that's not really a roadblock, because when they ask if you know finance, you can definitely say that you don't know finance. And in that case, they ask you questions from coding or mathematical puzzles. So basically, one day before the interview, all day long, I was practicing maths and puzzles. And that's fairly necessary, because that's you can tone your brain according to that. And being from chemical engineering and having a coding background, getting into DB for an intern, I would suggest that you need to turn around the entire interview in that direction which you feel confident about. So I turned the entire interview towards my resume, And though it had more of robotics, but I could justify whatever I had done, and that's what they were looking for. They were looking for sincerity and hard work. They were not really looking for someone who knows in and out what finance is, but someone who can grab finance the moment he's served it on a plate.